The alarm buzzed at 5:45 a.m. Sarah Miller blinked her tired eyes open in a small apartment room where the wallpaper had started peeling near the corners. Her son Liam still slept soundly on the old twin bed pushed against the wall. She lay there for a moment, listening to his soft breaths, reminding herself why she had to keep going. Life had not been kind, but Liam was her reason to fight every day. She tiptoed to the kitchen, opened the near-empty fridge, and sighed. 2 eggs, some bread, and milk that was about to expire.
That'll have to do,
She whispered, making breakfast quietly. Liam stirred awake, rubbing his eyes before grinning at her.
Morning, Mommy.
That smile gave her the strength she needed. By 6:30, they were out the door. Sarah's worn-out shoes slapped against the cracked pavement as she held Liam's hand, walking him to the bus stop. She carried her resume folder tightly against her chest. Today, she had interviews. Today, maybe things would finally change. Meanwhile, high above the city in a skyscraper of glass and steel, Damian Cross's world was entirely different. His office looked more like the command center of an empire than a workplace. He stood by the massive window, looking out over the city he practically owned. Damian was not just a CEO. He was a name whispered with awe and fear in boardrooms across the country. Damian lived in numbers, deals, and deadlines. Emotions were distractions. Compassion was weakness. He was known as the Ice King for good reason. His staff feared his silence more than his anger, and when he spoke, his words carried the weight of a man who was never questioned. But what no one saw was the emptiness. His penthouse was filled with luxury but void of warmth. His dinners were solitary, his nights sleepless. Even victories in business felt hollow. Damian had everything money could buy, except the one thing it couldn't: connection. That afternoon, Sarah walked nervously into the Cross Enterprises lobby. Marble floors gleamed, chandeliers sparkled, and employees in designer suits bustled past her. She clutched her resume folder so tightly her knuckles turned white. Compared to this world of wealth, she felt painfully small. When her name was called, she entered Damian's office. He didn't look up right away, flipping through a file with disinterest. Finally, their eyes met, her tired but determined gaze against his sharp, cold stare. The room suddenly felt smaller. Damian asked rapid-fire questions, expecting her to stumble, but Sarah answered calmly, drawing from her struggles. She spoke with quiet strength that surprised him. For a moment, he saw not desperation, but resilience. Against all odds, he found himself saying,
"You're hired."
Sarah quickly learned that working for Damian Cross was no ordinary job. His expectations were brutal. He critiqued her reports, dismissed her suggestions, and often ignored her presence altogether. But Sarah refused to break. She pushed harder, learning, adapting, standing firm. One late evening during a heated meeting, Sarah finally challenged him.
With respect, Mr. Cross, not everything in this world can be solved by throwing money at it.
The room froze. No one spoke to Damian Cross that way. For a split second, Damian felt something unusual: amusement. Instead of firing her as everyone expected, he dismissed the meeting and said only,
"Stay."
For the first time in years, someone had intrigued him. One evening, Sarah couldn't find a babysitter and had no choice but to bring Liam to the office. She braced herself for Damian's wrath. But when Liam peeked around her skirt and smiled at him, Damian didn't scold. He softened.
Do you ever laugh, mister?
The boy asked innocently. For the first time in years, Damian chuckled. Sarah watched in disbelief as Liam sat at Damian's desk, doodling on his notepad. Damian asked him questions about superheroes in school. The man who was feared by boardrooms was suddenly a fatherly figure, even if just for an evening. When it was time to leave, Damian insisted on driving them home. In the quiet of his luxury car, Sarah saw not the Ice King, but a lonely man who maybe, just maybe, needed warmth as much as she did. Weeks passed. Sarah stayed late many nights, often finding Damian still at his desk. They worked side by side in silence, the city lights sprawling beyond the glass windows. Slowly, walls began to crumble. A shared joke here, a glance that lingered too long there. Their conversations shifted from business to life. Damian found himself drawn to her resilience. Sarah found herself drawn to the cracks in his armor. And Liam? He had started asking.
when Mr. Cross would come over for dinner.
But where there is warmth, shadows always lurk. Victor Hale, Damian's longtime associate, watched everything with narrowed eyes. He had always wanted Damian's empire, and perhaps Sarah too. Her presence threatened his ambitions. Victor began planting seeds of doubt, whispering rumors among employees, fabricating stories about Sarah. He wanted Damian to believe she was a distraction, a liability. He wanted her gone. But Sarah, unaware of the storm brewing, continued doing her job with quiet strength. She didn't yet realize she had become the target of a man who would do anything to see her fall. It was a rainy night. Sarah left the office later than usual, her umbrella barely holding against the storm. She didn't notice the footsteps following her through the nearly empty parking lot until it was too late. A figure grabbed her arm, shoving her against the cold concrete wall. Her screams echoed, but the storm drowned them. Just when panic surged through her chest, headlights cut through the rain. A sleek black car screeched to a halt. Damian stepped out, his expression like thunder itself. Within moments, the attacker fled into the shadows. Damian rushed to Sarah, his hands trembling as he checked her face.
You're safe now.
He whispered, pulling her close. For the first time, his mask slipped completely. He wasn't the Ice King anymore. He was a man terrified of losing her. That night, Damian couldn't sleep. He sat alone in his penthouse, staring at a glass of untouched whiskey. Memories haunted him. A childhood filled with betrayal. A business partner who had tried to ruin him. A woman he once trusted, who left when he needed her most. He remembered swearing never to let anyone close again. But Sarah had broken through, and Liam had brought laughter back into his life. That terrified him more than any hostile takeover ever could. Victor Hale saw his chance. With forged documents and cunning lies, he painted Sarah as a spy, claiming she was leaking sensitive information. The evidence looked damning. Employees whispered. Damian, torn between his growing feelings and his instincts, confronted Sarah. Tears stung Sarah's eyes.
You think I'd ever betray you? After everything?
Her voice broke, but Damian, blinded by fear of betrayal, turned cold.
Leave, effective immediately.
The words shattered her. Weeks passed. Sarah tried to move on, focusing on Liam. But one evening, as she left Liam at a friend's house, she was ambushed. Victor's men dragged her into a van. His jealousy had curdled into obsession. If Damian wouldn't cast her aside willingly, Victor would remove her himself. When Damian learned of Sarah's disappearance, panic ripped through him. He had made the gravest mistake of his life. For the first time, business deals, money, power, none of it mattered. He swore he would find her, no matter the cost. After days of searching, Damian tracked Victor to an abandoned warehouse on the city's outskirts. The air was thick with tension as Damian stormed in, his bodyguards behind him. Victor stood smugly, Sarah bound to a chair.
You don't deserve her.
Victor hissed. The confrontation exploded into chaos. A fight broke out, fists and gunshots echoing in the night. Damian fought like a man possessed, his eyes only on Sarah. Finally, he freed her, holding her trembling body in his arms.
I'll never doubt you again.
He whispered. Weeks later, as the city glittered under the night sky, Damian brought Sarah to the rooftop of his skyscraper. The air was crisp, the stars above endless. He held her hands, his usual confidence replaced with vulnerability.
I built my life on steel and stone, Sarah, but you and Liam, you gave me something real. I was a fool to push you away. Marry me and let's build something worth living for.
His voice trembled, raw and unguarded. Months later, the church bells rang. Sarah walked down the aisle in a simple but elegant gown, Liam proudly holding her hand. Damian stood at the altar, his icy armor completely gone, his eyes filled only with love. When they said, "I do," the room erupted with joy. Liam clapped loudly, and Damian bent down to hug him too. Their family was whole at last. For Sarah, it was the end of struggles. For Damian, the end of loneliness. For Liam, the beginning of a forever home filled with love. Thanks for watching till the end. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and let me know in the comments if you'd love to see a part 2.